Welcome back to our Kahani Ka Vishleshan. Today, we're pulling apart a completely chilling story straight from rural folklore. We're talking about Kala Tantra, which literally translates to black magic. But as we're going to see in this explainer, the supernatural stuff, it's really just a magnifying glass for a much more grounded, terrifying reality, which is familial jealousy. We're going to dive into exactly how a seemingly normal family dynamic just spirals into absolute horror. There's a saying right at the center of all this. Where greed and black magic meet, only destruction remains. And listen, this isn't just some random, creepy folklore. It is the absolute core thesis of the material we're analyzing today. This narrative goes way beyond cheap jump scares or your standard haunting. It's a stark, terrifying look at the horrific, all-consuming cost of envy. It really forces us to ask, what actually happens when we just let resentment rot inside of us?
Which brings us to part 1, success and jealousy.
So the roots of this story start in Dharampal's household, which is split between two brothers. You've got Ajay, who moved to the city, and Vijay, who stayed back in the village. And the contrast here is pretty stark. Ajay is the generous one, right? He never forgets his roots. He's sending money home every month, paying his brother Vijay's kids' school fees, bringing gifts. He even invites his parents to live in his nice city house. His wife, Meera, is just as kind. But over in the shadows, Vijay's wife, Kavita, is taking every single one of these gifts as a massive personal insult. She feels completely sidelined. To her, Meera's genuine kindness is just a condescending show-off. So while the whole village is singing Ajay's praises, Kavita is forcing this fake smile while pure toxicity just ferments inside her. And that silent, rotting resentment, that is the psychological trigger for everything that comes next.
Moving to part 2, the dark magic begins. Kavita's jealousy hits a total breaking point. She realizes she can't have what Ajay has, so she decides to destroy it. She tracks down this old village woman rumored to practice Kala Tantra, forbidden dark arts. And the sheer intimacy of her betrayal is what makes it so terrifying. Under the guise of a nice family get-together, she invites Ajay and Meera to the village. But when the lights go out, the sinister work starts. She creeps into Ajay's room and cuts his hair while he's sleeping. She slips this dark, cursed packet right into his wallet. And chillingly, she literally mixes enchanted ash into a bowl of sweet kheer and serves it to him with a smile. Finally, dead of night, at an abandoned temple, she drips mustard oil over his photograph. She's taking the most mundane, trusting acts of family life and turning them into literal weapons.
So we hit part 3, the downfall. AJ goes back to the city, completely unaware that he's just ingested the supernatural poison. But the wheels are in motion, and the unraveling doesn't happen all at once. It's super calculated. First, it goes after his mind. Sudden, weird bursts of anger, endless fights with his wife, which is totally out of character for him. Next, it hits his wallet. Long-standing business contracts just suddenly fail. Payments completely freeze up. Then, the psychological torment turns visual. He starts seeing these looming dark shadows standing by his wardrobe in the middle of the night. And finally, his body just gives out. He gets hit with this severe, raging fever that doctors literally can't figure out. His entire life is just falling apart, piece by piece.
The terror of all this peaks one night when his wife, Meera, wakes up in absolute horror. She hears Ajay, who's incredibly weak at this point, screaming these exact words in his sleep. "Don't call me. What have I done to you?" He is being tormented by this unseen entity, totally helpless, pleading with a dark force he doesn't even comprehend.
This brings us to part 4, truth and liberation. Right when Ajay is on the brink of losing everything, his mother, Saroj, has a massive breakthrough. She notices a terrifying pattern. The severe illnesses, the sudden financial ruin, they always perfectly align with his visits back to the village. And that sparks a really dark memory for her about Kavita's own mother, Hansika. See, Hansika was notorious in their village for using black magic to slowly control her in-laws and steal their land, all while acting super sweet to their faces. Saroj has this horrifying aha moment. Her daughter-in-law Kavita might be following in those exact same sinister footsteps. The enemy isn't some random ghost, it's family. Acting purely on a mother's instinct to protect her child, Saroj completely bypasses the rest of the family. She doesn't confront Kavita, she doesn't even tell Vijay. She just grabs a severely weakened, almost lifeless Ajay and gets him out of the city. She takes him directly to a powerful Swami at an ancient remote forest temple, a place of deep, ancient protective power, a direct counter to the dark magic eating away at her son. But as they walk up to the temple steps, Ajay,
a guy who usually never leaves the house without praying, stops dead in his tracks. His face completely contorts, and he violently yells, "Mother, I don't want to go inside." He actually tries to run away. And for the Swami, this terrifying reaction to the deity, that's the final confirmation. The dark entity Kavita summoned has taken a firm physical hold over Ajay's mind and body.
What happens next is this incredibly intense, fast-paced climax. The Swami initiates a massive Havan, a sacred fire ritual, and as these ancient mantras start echoing, Ajay loses all control. He's screaming, growling, thrashing around, trying to physically destroy the sacred fire. But the Swami just holds his ground. He uses holy water from the Ganges, burning camphor, yellow mustard, and finally he throws sacred ash directly onto Ajay's forehead. The shock to his system is violent, but it works. The entity is violently banished from Ajay's body, and he just collapses, finally free. Now, before Saroj and an exhausted Ajay leave the sanctuary of that forest temple, the Swami gives them one final, ominous warning. He looks at them and says, "The one who did this will not meet a good end." The curse on Ajay is broken, sure, but the energy of that black magic, it has to go somewhere. And this perfectly sets the stage for the karmic retribution that is absolutely bound to follow.
Which leads us to part 5, the terrifying fruits of karma.
Ajay is safe, but the horrifying reality of Kavita's betrayal is finally dragged into the light back at the village, and the confrontation is just heartbreaking. A desperate, furious Vijay forces Kavita to swear on their own daughter's life to tell the truth. And finally, the facade cracks. Kavita breaks down, sobbing, and confesses to the whole thing. The hair, the ash in the kheer, the rituals, everything. And her reason? Pure, unadulterated jealousy. She literally couldn't stand hearing anyone praise Ajay. Her fragile ego and envy were worth her brother-in-law's life.
The immediate fallout here is total devastation. Blinded by betrayal, Vijay actually grabs a kitchen knife to attack Kavita, but Ajay, the very guy she tortured, steps in to stop it. He refuses to let more sin taint the family. So instead, Vijay packs up, takes his daughter, and leaves for the city forever with Ajay and the parents. Kavita's dark actions completely shattered the very family she felt so inferior in, leaving her totally abandoned in the sprawling, empty house.
But being abandoned is really just the start of her punishment. Alone in that silent house, Kavita starts this terrifying descent into madness. Because the exact same dark shadows she summoned to haunt Ajay, they start appearing in her own courtyard. The malicious entity was banished from Ajay, so it went right back to its creator. Night after night, she hears this chilling whisper right by her ear. Now it's your turn. The narrative wraps up a few days later with a really grim discovery. Villagers start noticing this terrible odor coming from the locked house. When they break the door down, they find Kavita's lifeless body. And what is she surrounded by? A black cloth and a burnt lemon, the exact rotting remnants of her own dark rituals. The magic she weaponized to destroy her family turned right around and consumed her whole.
This brings us to the end of our analysis today. And I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Does envy merely destroy the one it targets, or does it ultimately consume the one who harbors it? The supernatural horror of Kala Tantra is wild, for sure, but it's really just a vehicle to expose a very real, very destructive human emotion. Jealousy, if left unchecked, is its own kind of black magic. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the stories that scare us, guys. They usually teach us the most about ourselves.